Welcome to the We Watch This Movie podcast, where we sit down for a cup of coffee and share a short, spoiler-free discussion on the latest and greatest in film. This is our mini episode, our Minisode series that we're bringing to you each and every week, hopefully. Maybe I'll pigeonhole us there, but we'll, as many as we can do, we will. I'm joined as always by the Nolan fanboy, the Nolan connoisseur, Jackson Marshall.
Oh, the shoe's on the other foot. Might this be because I was lucky enough to sneak out, get across the border, and watch a certain movie in cinemas? Unfortunately not. Faithful listeners, we haven't yet to see a movie that shall not be named in this minisode as we plug and push it enough. In fact, who knows why Warner Brothers even bothered with a marketing campaign? They could have just put our podcast out there. It's free. Dan, movies. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well, but I'm not doing well as well because, people are seeing Tenet now, and we're not one of them. Anyway, there's the one cue.
They're saying what?
Jackson, what are we reviewing today?
Dan, today we're going back and watching a film that dropped around about 4 weeks ago or so from when we recorded this. The new Tom Hanks vehicle, battleship, vanity project you might say, Greyhound. What's it about? Well, in the early days of World War II, and only months after the USA joined the fray, a first-time inexperienced captain leads a convoy of Allied ships across the treacherous waters of the North Atlantic, known as the Black Pit, to the war's front line. With no air protection for 5 days, Captain Ernest Kraus, very German-sounding name, is hotly pursued by a wolf pack of Nazi U-boats. Dan, why did you recommend we cover Greyhound here for this minisode series, in our third ever minisode?
Tom Hanks, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're one of the greatest working actors alive.
High praise.
You don't need to write a script. This is a pure example of why you shouldn't.
Whoa, you are coming in hot and heavy.
Look,
usually that's my job. That's reserved for me, but mate, all yours.
Being a little harsh, but unfortunately this one fell well short of what I was hoping for. I'm a big war film fan, okay? This genre, you can't find anyone who's a bigger fan than me. But this just didn't do it, Jackson.
Oh.
No stakes, no emotion, boring, and it just fell flat. It didn't have any sort of oomph to it.
Yeah,
Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. You could definitely say this was lacking that certain gravitas that you expect from a not only a war movie, but a Tom Hanks movie. Compare this to Captain Phillips, Sully, Apollo 13, all movies that kind of explore Tom Hanks' complicated relationship with water on screen. And that's it, Dan. Look at me. I'm the captain now. So going in with this kind of expectations for the movie we're going to get here, again, listeners, we've got another movie that's going to subvert your expectations, because rather than having some of those big stakes be emotionally moving, instead we get this bizarre Navy action procedural that comes with like no context, heaps of naval jargon, probably too much. The movie barely stays afloat with all this naval jargon, and just not enough depth, not enough character exploration here.
It's a sinking ship from the moment where we see that flashback. Those flashback scenes were just get me out of there. So
what do you mean,
boring.
like all one of them? You get the feeling that it must have been chopped down. Whatever this script that Thomas Hanks wrote and is obviously now starting, an adaptation of C.S. Forester's work, The Good Shepherd. You also know one of his works was adapted into The African Queen. Quite a big old-timey movie there. You get the feeling that it was been chopped down here for 91 minutes. Let's put out the best project possible. Where's the rest of the movie, right?
Look, Apple TV have been good to me for the most part of this year, but seeing this, I had high expectations. Tom Hanks, he's one of the greatest working actors, as I said. Usually, all of his films are hits that I've seen anyway, recently anyway. But this one just didn't hit the mark. It felt uninspired. It felt generic. and that's not some words that you'd put with many Tom Hanks films. I've just watched Forrest Gump recently. I watched Captain Phillips, and I watched The Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which
Of
we covered
course.
as well.
Yeah.
All brilliant performances by him, and you know what? He's good in this, but he's not good enough. There's no supporting characters. There Everything was just generic. Music, action set piece. It felt like just one action set piece. Let's go to the next one and the next one. Oh, we just missed that torpedo. Oh, we just made it out alive. It's just so predictable, and yeah, just really disappointed. Maybe it would have been a better experience in the theater because we did watch this at home, but you get those sound effects in the theater and the immersion. But even then, it might have bumped it up 1 point. It's a story problem, and it's just the whole sort of atmosphere. It felt very generic, very like it felt like John Travolta should have been in this, or
It's a bit harsh.
Nick Cage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the
I
vibe
think
I
Nick
was
Cage
getting.
was in a similar movie as well about like a Pearl Harbor attack.
Definitely, that's what I'm
I think it
thinking
was
of.
on Netflix. It was on some streaming service. This is going back a couple years now. I cannot remember the name of for the life of me, but it couldn't have been any good. Dan, I'm
No.
glad that you brought up that we did have to watch this one at home, and you said that Apple TV have been good to you, which I don't think I've watched anything on Apple TV. Like, I don't think I've seen any of these TV series. Like, people talk about, what is it, The Morning Show with Jennifer
Morning
Aniston?
show. Yeah,
Called
I
Morning
really
Wars?
enjoyed the morning show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it definitely hasn't helped this film watching it on the couch because it definitely is tailor-made for cinemas. You said that some of that sound with bullets whooshing past your head, or whizzing past, I should say, and some of these explosions, just the diegetic sound and score of the movie, the sound mixing would be awesome in there. And it's quite sad it didn't happen because originally we were meant to get this movie back in first, I believe it was March, for obvious reasons. That was then pushed back to May, to June, and then finally found its way onto Apple TV Plus streaming service in July. And originally, when this was first announced in 2018, it had a budget slated of about 30 million, but it ended up costing just over 50 million. Brought to us here by director Aaron Schneider
This
and his
cost
second ever
50
feature.
million.
50 million, and with some of the
Green
CGI.
screen and CGI.
Yeah, right? Like, how did this cost so much money? Maybe 30 million went to Tom.
Yeah, he's taken on a big check. Seriously, that doesn't seem right.
But you know what? $50 million budget after this what was going to get pulled from cinemas. Apple purchased this one, the distribution rights for their service, for a reported 70 million. So it's actually gone ahead, and I guess you could say, even without the theatrical run, it's gone on and made a profit. So at least there's a good news story there, and it cost Apple some money, so let's take a jab at a big corporation while we can. Dan, had we had this at the cinemas, and another point I want to mention, had we had this at the cinemas, as well as seeing this prior to another war movie in a very similar vein, kind of, happening in real time or broken up in chapters, 1917, you might remember, wouldn't we have appreciated this more?
No.
You don't think?
No.
Because I think it's really hard when we got that groundbreaking is probably too strong a word, but at least innovative film with real depth and real characters and these underlying themes that are hinted and suggested at. I kind of feel like there's more exploration in that film. That's a stronger script than what we got here.
Like they were trying to go for the vibes of Dunkirk. In all honesty,
Can't comment on that, but there's
I
another
don't
mention.
I don't mean to bring it back to our man again, but
And
Dunkirk had a similar. If this could grab onto Dunkirk and get the atmosphere of what that created and the suspense, that's what they were trying to achieve. I believe even the music was very similar to Dunkirk. I noticed. You haven't seen it, but when you do, you'll notice it probably.
Having not seen Dunkirk, I can already imagine the music and the score in my head.
Honestly, I reckon when in the editing process, usually they have like music that's not going to be the final, but they put music over the edit. So when you're watching it, you get a feeling of what you want to go for. I reckon they put Hans Zimmer's Dunkirk score over this in the pre-edit before they got the composer in. I seriously think 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. You're probably right. It would have been a placeholder. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of his works are placeholders because they are now that kind of stereotypical classical movie score that we've come to expect from not only a war movie, but what's essentially a big blockbuster.
And so, Tom, this isn't Tom Hanks' first rodeo in terms of writing.
Really?
What do you think of him as a writer?
It's
I
hard
believe
because
he's done one other movie
okay.
before.
Well, I believe he's directed a movie. I cannot remember the name, but I'm pretty sure it stars his son Colin Hanks. I feel like it's about like the 50s bebop movement, something weird. I'm sure if you're on your Google machine here, you can find it, listeners. But for our Minisode series, we're just going to keep things moving.
So he
Yeah,
wrote he wrote that thing you do.
that's the one I'm thinking of with Colin Hanks' son. Yep.
Yeah, and he wrote Larry Crown. So this is his third feature.
Well, considering some of the, like I said earlier, some of the themes and hints and nods that we get are kind of woven into the screenplay, and there is some foreshadowing on what not set up. I'd say he's skilled enough. Would this project have really gotten off the ground if Tom Hanks wasn't involved and it was another writer and another star? I don't know. Maybe
No
not.
way.
But he's
Come on.
definitely got a lot of clout. If anyone's got it, you said it, mate. One of the greatest living actors, or maybe
So
most popular, I should say.
yeah. What about the action sequences? Were you on the edge of your seat,
Oh,
or
I
were
don't know
you
about edge of my
dozing off?
seat. You seem to be hinting that maybe not. I found it was tense at times and kind of claustrophobic in some of those action sequences. We weren't sure what was going to happen, even though, we know there's 45 minutes left in the runtime. Maybe this time the Germans, the Grey Wolf, they are going to take him out. So it works when it sticks to being a submarine thriller. In some of these tense action sequences, and we get the kind of we get the interplay between not only Greyhound, but then the Grey Wolf. I feel like that's when it's at its strongest, and it wants to get to that next level, but it just can't get there. It's just not strong enough. There's not enough going on underneath the surface. I feel like Thomas Kretschmann voicing the Grey Wolf, if this was a better Tom Hanks movie, like a directed by a Ron Howard or a Robert Zemeckis, I feel like there would have been something else there, and it never got it.
Definitely.
What did you think?
I one thing I'll say I liked is the portrayal of the enemy. It was actually quite scary.
Yeah, they feel like a real threat, and they're looming, right?
Too. They're looming and always hidden beneath the surface of the sea, I guess you could say. I don't know what I'm saying.
I don't think
I've
anyone
lost the
knows.
plot. But yeah, I like that portrayal of the enemy. But all the actual characters we're supposed to be feeling for, I had no sympathy. I didn't care if they died, if I didn't care if they survived. In this sort of film, it's a thriller and it's a war film, but it's also a bit of a survival film where,
Yeah.
how many of these guys are going to get out alive? Are they going to make it? So you've got to help us feel for these characters at some point. There needs to be some emotion there. I just didn't get it with anyone in the cast, including Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom Hanks, no stranger to a survival movie, a
No,
resourceful movie, and something about exploring human nature and what are you willing to do and what's it going to take to keep everyone alive. But I don't know, maybe at 2 hours, which it's not like us to complain that a movie's too short, but maybe at 2 hours there is something stronger, something better there, because it's at points it's a movie about faith, but doesn't ever really want to go down that route. We start off with Tom Hanks praying, and his character Ernest Krauss at different times will pray kind of to the begrudging crew, I guess you could say. And the crew are nervous, the US are only a couple months into the war, but where was more of that explored? You know what would have been cool? What if this were a TV series?
oh Jackson, no.
You don't want to see more?
Apple TV, Defending Jacob, great TV series, The Morning Show, and Servant, all three pretty solid TV series. That's why I said I was happy with the content I was getting from Apple TV. In terms of films and movies, this is the first big one I can think of. Correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, but just didn't hit the mark. If they're going to spend $70 million on a film, my goodness me, this is not what I want to see.
Well, you know what, Dan? It is their first big movie. Apple pushed it as such, and it did have, for any program on their streaming service, Apple TV Plus, the biggest debut weekend so far. So I guess it has been a success
Do we know
for
the
them
numbers?
in that respect. I'm not sure if the numbers are out there, because Apple, which pretty typical of the company, are secretive about this, but it would be big.
I'm interested because I don't know how many subscribers they have either. I wonder if that's public knowledge.
Well, look, aside from watching this movie, I really can't say I'm one of them.
Did you get the trial going? Do they even have a trial now? I don't think they do. I think they got rid of it. Or was that
Yeah.
Disney?
No, Disney definitely scrapped it, of course.
Yeah, they're both very interesting. But Jackson, what are the critics saying about this one?
Well, Dan, I'm glad you asked. Time to hit it.
Jackson's ratings.
IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, audience score, and Letterboxd.
You might be surprised to hear this stuff, Dan. Let's go through the statistics. Let's flip things around. Let's start with shout out Letterboxd. So far, the diehard movie fans out there, part of the awesome Letterboxd social media community, 3.1 out of 5. It's been logged, having watched by over 18,000 users and liked by almost 3,500. So, you know, 3 out of 5, 6 out of 10.
Post has more. A low-budget horror on Shudder has more than the biggest Apple movie.
However,
so there's a concern already.
When you've got Tom Hanks on your movie poster, it's his project and it's being pushed as such out to the public, there'd be plenty of dads out there. This is like the perfect dad movie who would be watching it and wouldn't be talking about it online. What was that?
I said Letterboxd versus the real world is a little bit different.
Oh, exactly. Whether it's Twitter versus the real world or God only knows. Metacritic, 64 from 37 critic reviews. I'll keep things moving. Rotten Tomatoes, an audience score, 76% of audiences have given this a rating of 3.5 out of 5 or better. It's over 1,200 ratings collated so far. The Tomato Meter, 79% of critics have given this a fresh rating. It's had over 200 critic reviews. And Dan, it's certified fresh.
Yeah, I can't believe that. That is shocking. No, seriously, I cannot believe that. I'm in shock.
It's strong, that's for sure.
I'm in shock.
Well,
I'm actually in shock. I didn't know that.
I've left them till last, and you might be surprised to hear this, and it's exactly why I've put them here. IMDb, 7.1 out of 10. Over 44,000 user ratings.
How many?
That's quite high. 44,000.
What?
So I wager there's a lot of dads, a lot of old white dudes. It's their perfect film who have gone on there and ticked that box at a 7 or an 8 or higher, which I think is a little ridiculous.
He had a 7.1 after 40,000. Did they watch the same movie? I actually cannot believe that.
Dan, look, we're not old white dudes. We're not dads. You're almost a dad with your dog. It's not really a movie for us.
But it is, Jackson. This is the thing. Fast and the Furious, Hacksaw Ridge, all these war films. What else?
Fast and the Furious?
I don't know why I said that. Yeah, no. What I'm saying is, all these war films, we're in that demographic. We should enjoy this film. This is for us. So, you know, I don't know. They just fell flat. Writing, too many, I wouldn't say too many action scenes, but they just weren't that entertaining. Maybe
it wasn't fleshed out enough. Wasn't fleshed out enough.
Maybe it is because it's a naval movie and there's only so much you can do there. I don't know, but you can mix it up in the writing. Characters, music, generic. I don't have many redeeming things. So if we're going to go into our ratings, I had this at a 4 out of 10, which is bad.
God, that's quite low for you.
Yeah, so I'm generous, as you guys know. I give out 6 and 7s like they're candy at a candy store. So you know, a 4 is not good. What have you got this at, Jackson?
Well, look, being a dad movie, I'm surprised you didn't give this one another 7 out of 10 like you did for Extraction. Which, listeners, if you haven't checked that out, our main episode, please do.
I'd watch Extraction 100 times before I watch this again.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. I'm a little bit torn on this one. I have to say, I did watch this earlier today. Pretty hungover. Not the best of viewing circumstances. No. But now that I reflect on it, I think about some of the themes, some of the things that posed, which aren't great. Did I enjoy it a little bit more? Yeah. It's going to be fair for me to put this at a 6 out of 10 half-eaten breakfasts.
Wow, that's actually, I think you've gone a little bit too high there. But then again, IMDb has it at 7. So
It was,
Ooh, yeah,
it was good, but it wasn't great. And I wouldn't watch it again. It's not a favorite. Like, it was good enough that 91 minutes, sure, cool, it was short. Like I said, I kind of wanted something longer.
All right, that is it for our mini-sode for today of Greyhound. Jackson, what are we covering in our next mini episode?
Well, Dan, I'm so glad you asked because, listeners, we have no flippin' idea. So if you want to suggest a mini-sode, why not DM us, reach out to us, find us on our social media at We Watch This Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Letterboxd, Twitter, even on TikTok, of course, on Instagram. We'd love to get your DMs, suggestions, recommendations. Maybe you want to feature on your own mini-sode covering something that yours... Covering something that you've seen at the cinemas that we can't, because sadly we are still in Melbourne, still in lockdown restriction stage 4, but they will be ending quite soon. With that, Dan, I am Matt Marshall on film. He is
Our movies.
This is the We Watch This Movie podcast, and we are out of time.
Thanks for listening, everybody.